Come on, Cleo. Good morning. Today. Today is Sunday. September 9th, excuse me, September 9th, 2018. If you looked at it through numerology, that would be 999. Let's see, 9. The trine. Actually, let me see. Never mind. It's just my momentary insanity kicking in. That's what happens when you don't have much to think about or do. It's nice out. Nice and cool. Well, cool for me. Here she comes. Shit. It's been a hell of a week. My last video cut off because of a Amber Alert or a weather alert. Because we had a wannabe hurricane come through. Fortunately, we just got the outer bands, and we got a lot of rain that next day. A little bit of wind. No trees went down this time. I guess I should come out here earlier before the sun gets to this height. It's been a hell of a week. We finally got through the I like to call it the Kavanaugh Inquisition. It's more like a political joke because regardless of what was brought out, they're gonna let him have that seat in the Supreme Court, and that bothers me. You know, I'm 70 years old now, and for the life of me, I cannot understand what it is or why it is men feel the need that they have to regulate a woman's choices. I just don't get it. I mean, the only choice they should be concerned with is whether or not she wants to have sex with them, you know? Let's do it or not. For what purpose does it serve to regulate her health choices? Power? I mean, are you that, God, I can't even come up with a title for it. Insecure, megalomaniac, micromanagement. What is it that men feel that they need to control a woman to that degree? Why control a woman in the first place? What the fuck are you guys afraid of? I mean, if we decide we don't want to be married to you, well, you got a couple of choices. You can stay married and be miserable, or you get a divorce and move on. In a previous walk, I mentioned how my first husband didn't want to be bothered with child support, so he signed off all parental rights. And that's how it was. No child support, no visitation rights. It was fine by him. I'm the one that had to carry the burden, bear the onus. Of course, I never let stuff like that bother me. It wasn't until like 4 years after that divorce, I had moved into a little apartment, and I was there for a couple of weeks. And one afternoon, there was a knock on my door, and when I opened it, there was my former father-in-law standing there, looking rather chagrined and embarrassed. If he had a hat, it would have been in his hand, that type thing. Come to find out, him and my former mother-in-law lived just upstairs from me. Well, a lot of different ways to look at it, but I chose to view it as poetic justice. And after a few minutes of discussion, he admitted to me that his son was a jerk. Because his side of the family hadn't seen hide nor hair of his daughter for 4 years. You know, when I close the door and walk away, I close the door and walk away. And he asked if it would be all right if my daughter could come up and pay a visit with him. And I felt so bad for him because he was on the verge of tears, and he was all but begging. And the only thing I could think of was, you know, you asshole, how could you do this to your parents? And I happily gave him permission. I had to introduce my daughter to her grandfather because she didn't know him from anybody. He was just another stranger. But there seemed to be some kind of connection there because he happily went. I watched him walk up the steps, and I gave them their privacy. I know a lot of people would say, oh, you know, you're a bad mother. You took a lot of chances. And yeah, I did take a lot of chances, but I don't consider myself a bad mother. I gave these people a chance. And I let them have their privacy. And for a couple of months, my daughter had the privilege of being able to visit with her grandparents. And they got to be with their granddaughter. That was a sad situation. Come on, Cleo. Let's come over here. Come on. So, yeah. But, you know, he never contributed a thing because he didn't want to. He couldn't be bothered. You know, this was his child. This was a child, for what it was worth, was conceived in marriage, you know? Not like the way a lot of things go down these days. It was all by the book. And it didn't matter. No responsibility. So here we are today. men and old people. You know, I was at, we had a moving job to do, and we had rented a U-Haul truck, and we were a little bit early for the job, so we parked down the road. Turned out it was by the entryway to the local Planned Parenthood clinic. And they were getting ready, or there were people coming up and parking on the sides of the road, and old people getting out with their placards and their signs and everything. And I mean old people. People that look like they needed a drink of water or two because they were so withered looking. But yeah, these old people were there to protest abortion. Now, you know, I would think that if you were of childbearing age, you had a right to your opinion. But when you're so withered up, that's all you can do to get up out of bed in the morning and go through the daily motions, you really don't have a say in somebody else's reproductive system, in somebody else's life. Now, my God, people are living off of your retirement. Who the fuck are you to tell somebody else how to live their life? But there they are. They're old. They got nothing better to do. So they find something to do. Tell other people how to live their lives. And, you know, once again, I go back to my daughter. She was 17, 18, thereabouts, and she had gotten pregnant. And I put my 2 cents in. I said, you know, the choice is yours, but this is the way it is. So we ended up at family planning, or, yeah, Planned Parenthood, excuse me. So we ended up at Planned Parenthood, and she had an abortion. But it's not a case of where you walk in, say I want an abortion, and go in and have it. There's a process. You walk in, you give your information, you have your interview. They give you a date, and when you come back, you have to pay for it, of course. Good job, Cleo. Then you have it done. And I remember waiting in the waiting area for my daughter, and there were other women who are coming in various stages of the process. One girl, I don't think she could have been more than 14. And a couple of women, they look to be like in their late 20s, early 30s, housewife type woman. And one lady who stood out in my memory was very professional looking. You know, wore the business suit, the white blouse, the low-heeled pumps, her hair moderately styled, her makeup very professional. You know, she looks like something you would find in any corporate office. I looked around at all these women, and they all had something in common. They had a choice to make, and they made it. Thank the gods, I've never been in that position. But it doesn't mean that I am incapable of feeling for women who have been and are in that position. Because that's something that affects your life like you just don't understand. You know, you're talking about the next 20 years of your life being committed to the care and keeping of another person. And it's not an easy job. I'm sure most of you out there are parents. You know what it costs to have a baby. You know what it costs to raise a child. You know all the trials and tribulations of parenting. And there's no guarantees. None whatsoever. Doesn't matter how right or wrong. If you try to be a good parent and they still turn out bad, well, that's the way it is. And just the opposite happens too. You know, you can be a drug addict, alcoholic, abusing little piece of scum, and yet you got a kid who turns out to be decent, who goes on to make something of themselves. Yeah. And it's just the luck of the draw. But this reversal, and if Kavanaugh gets in, you can pretty much book on Roe v. Wade being repealed. And it won't end there. I mean, we are going to be taking this country back. Shit. How far back? Let's see. Roe v. Wade is 45 plus years old. Because my daughter is 48 now. And if I had been able to get a legal abortion then, I would have. It's that simple. I found myself in a bad marriage, and I didn't need this, but I had no choice. So we go back from the late 60s to, oh shit, the 50s? Thereabouts, post-World War II. We have the birth control controversy. Back then, it was a big thing about preventing conception. And again, men in control. Now I've asked my roommate, what is it? What is it about this? And his answer was pretty much the same as my observations. It was control. But control for what purpose? You have all these children. Not everybody gets pregnant because they want to have children. So it's not the religious aspect, where sex is for procreation. There's a point there, Then you have, as I prefer to call it, the war machine. Got all this cannon fodder. In the history of our country, I believe it's been like only 4 years that we have not been at war in some shape or form. Oh, well, I'm sorry. My selfie stick is bouncing all over around. I shouldn't be walking so fast. I told you I was a strong walker. So, yeah, with Kavanaugh cleared to take the empty seat, on the Supreme Court bench, we can pretty much say goodbye to choice. Maybe next time I'll take us up to the bridge. We made a nice stretch, walked the whole mile. This used to be 2 tracks. It's 10 acres. It was purchased by some feed store people in town. And they got the oh, what would you call it? You know, they got, like I said, this is agricultural. And a lot of people have their businesses here, but they keep it on the lowdown. Oh, but these people don't. They got zoning clearances for public assembly, supposedly for disadvantaged youth. Now, they have been in existence for about, oh, over 2 years now. And I think they've held maybe 2 events for children. Hello, baby. Hmm? You want a pat? I don't have anything for you. Come on. Hmm? Okay. You're pretty. Yes, you are. You're very trusting. Okay. Okay. But last year they started on that barn. And we had Irma. Well, Irma took it down. This barn has seen more activity than the ring. The barn hosts weddings, religious gatherings, and I guess they'd hold any other social event if you're willing to meet their price. Yep, got a lot of money invested in this fencing here. This was all Wooded Terrace property. Yeah. Disadvantaged youth. There's a concession stand. And the bleachers. On the weekends, we get the ATVers. Now, if you go down that road there, about a quarter of a mile in, there's a big stretch of prairie, as we call it out here. And the ATVers gather, and on a Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday evening, that's all you hear is the roar of ATVs and dirt bikes. And of course, because this is a dirt road, you got the curiosity seekers. And it's not unusual, 11 o'clock at night, a line of ATVs come down the road. They come in slowly because they're just looking around. But once they get the gist of the territory, they buzz out of here. And a lot of times they just don't take into consideration that at 3 o'clock in the morning, there are people out here who live here and are asleep. Yeah. We'll take that road next time. Back to my original topic. There were some very good points brought up during the confirmation hearing, and by all rights, I do believe that the GOP needs to be dealt the same hand that they dealt President Obama when he introduced his nomination for the bench seat, like 8-9 months before the election. And back then they were the GOP was calling him a lame duck. They said, they came up with every kind of excuse they could. You can't appoint a judge to the bench in an election year. Okay, 2 years later, what are they doing? They're trying to railroad this asshole through. And that's after the Democrats conceded and let a whole bunch of federal judges get appointed to benches, just so we could get to the Kavanaugh debacle. Now, we got a lot of problems in this country. A lot. I'll let you in on something. All this year, I have been pondering. Selling my property, selling off my property, all my stuff, giving it away, throwing it away, selling off, whatever, seriously lightening my load, buying a ticket to Antwerp, and apply for asylum. Yeah. Because living in this country is a prequel to living in a country that we're supposed to be against. This is so fucked up. I was born in Florida. This is my home, you know? I'm finally in a place in my life where I can find a little peace, and with what time I have left, have a little life. Because I've never been able to do that. There's always been someone else involved. Well, now it's just me. And it don't look good. I don't know how some people would take that about hearing about someone who's willing to leave their country, forfeit their citizenship, and give up what little financial security they have. Because believe me, it ain't cheap living in Europe. And I have thought about it before. But like before, the other half of me argues, well, what the hell are you going to do to be a redeeming member of society? You know, because if you take, you got to give. And what the hell can I give at my age? Because people don't want to hear about your experiences. They don't want your wisdom. They don't want your insight. At least not here. Oh, I was on YouTube this morning. I think one of the side effects of prolonged stress is insomnia. So I average about 4 hours of sleep a night. I've been doing this for years. And so like yesterday, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I sat on YouTube to catch up with my news channels. And this morning I got up, I got up at 5. I had a whole 6 hours of sleep last night. And I usually catch up on my subscriptions to some of the bikers out there. And one of them was Kaz from Chosen Few. He's now on the channel Chosen Few Ventura County. And he's offering support t-shirts for 20 bucks. Yeah, sure, I'll go for it. So I bought me a t-shirt.